This podcast is sponsored by Indeed. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/passgas. Just go to Indeed.com/passgas right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/passgas. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. It is part 2 of our 3-part series on Volvo, baby. This week, we're talking safety. I know, sexy, right? Well, guess what? It gets even hotter. We're talking economics.
You better believe it. Macroecon, international macroecon.
That's right, dude. We're talking mergers. We're talking leadership changes in the C-suite. But you know what? We're also talking Volvo's finding their footing now. We're going from early weird cars to the Volvo that we know and love today, with cars like the 240, that's right. The 7 Series wagons.
The 850 wagon, the iconic wagon of the 90s.
5-cylinder turbocharged engines, all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. In the early 1950s, Volvo experimented with an open-top roadster dubbed the P1900. It was sporty, small, and fun. If any Swedish car was going to break into the American market, it would be the P1900. The US, a smorgasbord of car lovers that controlled half the world's wealth at the time, was the last frontier for Volvo. But there was a problem. While the P1900 looked like a Corvette, it couldn't have been further from the Chevy in terms of performance. While most of the original Corvettes were sold with a 220 horsepower V8, the P1900 ran on half the cylinders and produced less than 1/3 the horsepower. The 1956 Corvette could hit 129 miles per hour, while the P1900's 1.4-liter engine could barely putter up to 95. Only 67 of these were made before they stopped production.
67, dude.
Volvo's first foray into sports coupes was an utter failure, but they didn't throw up their hands in defeat or dig their heels in and decry, "No, they're wrong." They learned from it and came back stronger than ever. And their next sports coupe ended up becoming loved the world over. How did Volvo bounce back from this failure? What made these cars so special? And why are they still today seen as one of the most reliable and safe cars in the world? This week on Past Gas, it's the second part in our Volvo trilogy.
'67 is when you do like Superman someone. You know, when you lay on your back and you hold them up. Your legs have to, right? That would have to be 7.
Kind of like a 7.
Yeah, but nice. Your legs go on their head. They suck on your toes while they're doing it.
Oh my god! I wish.
Welcome back to Past Gas, everybody. Unfortunately, my name is Nolan Sykes, and I'm joined by 2 men who.
You don't usually have this much trouble with this.
Yeah.
No. Well, after hearing what I just heard, I don't even know where to begin.
Oh, come on. It's a fact of life. People suck on toes, Nolan.
Bart Bidlingmeyer is sitting across from me.
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I was doing better. And to my left, Joe G. Weber.
Clearly not a Tarantino fan, Nolan. Sorry for going so blue right away, Nolan.
That was very blue. That was Polestar blue.
Polestar uses gold accents. Team Cyan is what you're talking about.
Oh my god!
All the Polestars had that blue.
Oh,
car.
That's true. Yeah, that it was Team Cyan,
yeah,
then it became Polestar.
Yeah.
We will learn about that in next week's episode.
Oh, a little teaser from the blue joke there. That's good. So today is part 2 of our Volvo trilogy. Joe, you've been doing a lot of research on Volvo lately. You actually showed me a P1800 this morning that you wanted to purchase.
I do. I'm not going to be able to afford it because it's on Bring a Trailer, and it sold in December. Some guy had it for 1 month, but he paid like $30,000 for it.
Oh,
and so I'm not going to be able to afford it. It's like a resto mod.
Oh.
I do have one in Illinois that's still for sale though for $11,000 that I might just fly to Illinois for.
Just got to set a alert. Like they'll come up. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of them in West Hollywood.
Oh really?
Really?
Yeah. I remember when I used to live off Sunset,
Mhm.
but just walking around, driving around, riding my bike and stuff. I think there were probably 6 different.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
There was a really nice black one at my old place on Museum Drive.
Black's a great color.
Black,
Or that
nice.
maroon.
the maroon looks good. This one that I showed Nolan was like a mustardy yellow.
Yeah.
Not my favorite color, not my favorite trim because I do like the shooting brake version of
Okay.
it.
Then I think you should wait for the shooting break.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will. There's no rush.
There's not. There's not.
I'm not freaking out right now.
There's not a rush on these. I doubt.
I'm not liquidating assets right now.
Yeah, I think you'll find one if this is if this is the car that really speaks to Joe,
Yeah.
where it's like this is a Joe Weber must have. You'll find one that you like. I wouldn't pull the trigger too early on something that you don't like 100%, you know?
I think you have this view of me as like this forlorn wanderer that hasn't found the car that he likes. Right?
Well, I mean, since I've known you, since you started working here, you've bought and sold your fair share of cars, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm testing the waters.
Mm-hmm.
I got my Beamer,
Yeah.
which was a salvage. I knew it was never going to be.
You're testing the waters, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's right.
I'm not beholden to one car company. And I
know.
think more than anything, I've had the most amount of Japanese cars.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you still have the Z?
Joe,
I have a different Z,
A different one. Yeah.
the $800 Z.
Right.
And it's
Yeah, because there's the one that Max and I helped you on with the spark plugs a few years ago. That's
Yes.
a different one.
Chachi owns that.
Chachi owns that now.
Yeah, my homie Chachi, Central Valley.
Joe, there's two 1800s on
That's the
Bring a
yellow
Trailer. There's a yellow one.
Yeah,
Is this one already sold?
but look, no,
it
but
ends.
look,
It ends in a week. It's only at $2,000. And
it
then
just
this
started.
This one needs some work. Ends in 4 days.
I don't want to
and
buy a
it's at-
project. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you're going to if you're going to buy it at 1800.
Well, I don't want. I want to buy a running project.
All right.
These shooting brake ones are sick.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm into that.
I feel like you could drop a smaller Honda engine in one of these and it would be
Ooh.
really fun.
Yeah, I think you'd be K24.
Yeah.
In that? Turbo K20.
Because they are rear wheel drive.
Yeah.
So you need, I think 24 is meant for.
I like that.
Be fun.
I like that.
But yeah, going back to Volvo. So last week we learned that Volvo started in 1924. They survived World War II pretty well.
They were a startup within a company, basically. The guy started the company to
Yeah, it was like a passion project
Yeah, it was a
that
passion project to
Assar
prove
Gabrielson
that-
funded with his own paycheck.
That's right.
And then the engineer did everything on spec.
Yeah.
And it worked out for them. So, and then they made trucks. They got super into trucking and actually became like the bulk of their business.
Mm-hmm.
Then they made some taxis and stuff, but nothing like really exciting. And what we're going to get into this episode is their first exciting, sexy car.
Well, let's do it then.
Yeah.
Let's get into the sexy car.
Sexy car.
The end of the 1950s were kind to Volvo. The Amazon, or Series 120, was a breakout success for the company. And although they had lost their fearless leader, Assar Gabrielson, he was succeeded by another company man, Gunnar Engellau, who was previously head of Volvo Flygmotor, or the company's aerospace division.
I think it was just Aero at that time. Was it
that's
Aerospace?
Aerospace, yeah. Aero.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
10 years earlier, in 1948, Volvo had completed production of their 100,000th vehicle. Now they had a brand new factory that could produce 15,000 trucks per year. And they were about to open a brand new factory outside of Gothenburg. Among other innovations, Volvo trucks were among the first to introduce turbo diesels and fuel injection systems in the mid-50s. By this point, the three-point safety belt, which was invented by a Volvo engineer, was standard in all Volvo cars. A study of over 28,000 crashes done by the designer of the belt, Niels Bolin, found it to be incredibly effective in saving lives. In fact, none of the victims in the 28,000 accidents who were going under 60 miles per hour and wearing a seatbelt died. One idea was so ahead of its time, it made Volvo the target of a massive lawsuit. The company was so sure of their car's reliability that, for the first time in automotive history, Volvo, offered a 5-year warranty on their engines. This covered any mechanical failure, but also damage done by accidents.
Wow.
This really ticked off the Swedish insurance industry. They sued Volvo in a bid to get them to stop offering this warranty. But after 4 years of litigation and countless kroners spent, the lawsuit was dropped.
That's pretty funny that the insurance company was like, no,
Yeah.
we need to fix engines or no one's going to take.
I think like for this time, 5-year warranty on an engine is
pretty amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
But like a warranty on an engine in an accident is even crazier.
Yeah. Wow.
In the sunset of the 1950s, Volvo was secretly developing what would become their next big hit. After seeing the success of the Corvette in the States, the brain trust at Volvo HQ desperately wanted to make a small roadster. Their first attempt, the P1900, despite being ahead of its time, was a disaster. But Volvo was undeterred, and the development started on a new 2-in-2 sports coupe in 1957.
Is that how you say it? 2 and 2?
Yeah.
2 and 2.
2-in-2. 2 in the front, two seats in the front, 2 seats in the back.
They're like, naming is so pedantic in cars.
Coupe.
Yeah.
Coupe.
Another.
And the fact that like wagons are estates in the UK and saloons are different than a sedan. And
Yeah.
Don't forget the shooting brake.
yeah. Luckily, those don't really crop up that
Not
often.
too often. No.
You got the M Roadster. That's like the last one in the last 30 years.
Ferrari.
FF. Yeah. Thank you, Audrey.
Heading the project was Helmer Pettersson, an engineer who had helped design the PV444 a decade earlier. Since Volvo was obsessed with Italian design houses at the time, they tapped Pietro Frua, who had a studio that was a subsidiary of the design house Carrozzeria Ghia. The legend goes that Helmer's son, Pelle, was mentored by Pietro, and that he is the one that actually penned the design for the P1800, even though Pietro and his design house got credit for it. Even his father Helmer had no knowledge of this, and it wasn't until 2009 that Volvo officially gave credit to Pelle for the design. Volvo had no space to manufacture this new car, so the blueprints were sent to German auto builder Karmann to be manufactured.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
Designed by Ghia.
Yeah.
And made by Karmann, just like the Karmann Ghia.
Yeah.
Amazing. Helmer and Volvo chief engineer Thor Battelius met in Osnabrück, West Germany, to link up with Karmann engineers who had already begun preparing to produce the car. But by the time they got there, the company had decided they weren't going to build the P1800 for Volvo. Volkswagen had caught wind of the project and threatened to stop doing business with Karmann because the new Volvo would be in direct competition with their Karmann Ghia. Karmann, with their back up against the wall, went with the sure bet and sided with Volkswagen.
What a bummer for Volvo.
I know. But also, you're building all these new factories. Can you just build your car?
A frustrated Helmer had no other choice but to find a different manufacturer for the P1800. They looked around at other German companies, but none of them were up to Volvo's admittedly high standards. At this point, it looked like the P1800 might never be made, so Helmer concocted a plan B. If Volvo wasn't going to make it, he would get financial backing and buy all the plans and designs so he could produce it himself, reminiscent of how Assar Gabrielson produced the first ever Volvo by using his own financial backing. But Helmer didn't have to go through too much trouble because a surprise photo leak of the secret car with the Volvo badge surfaced, and the company was forced to publicly acknowledge it. The P1800
Clickbait.
The P1800 was put on display at the 1960 Brussels Auto Show, where it garnered lots of attention. This was enough to convince Volvo to put the car into production.
Can you imagine Harvey from TMZ like leaning on it? All right, have you seen this new leaked photo of a Volvo P1800?
I mean, that's back when it was tough to leak a photo. It's hard to make one back then.
Yeah,
you had to have like a camera in your purse and then develop it, and then
Volvo tapped Jensen Motors Limited in West Bromwich, England, to assemble the new sports car, and the first one rolled off the production line in September of 1960.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, what's up? It's Nolan, and I'm so excited to tell you about our sponsor today, Hankook Tire. That's right, Hankook, the official tire partner of Donut Media. This is super exciting. We've been looking for a tire sponsor for a long time, and Hankook is on board. The Dynapro SUV and light truck tires made by Hankook offer off-road traction in tough terrains without compromising on-road comfort. Designed to suit a wide range of vehicles and with an aggressive design that offers both protection and good looks, Dynapro SUV and light truck tires can take you from point A to who knows where in comfort and style. And with a long tread life thanks to Hankook's durable compound, you're sure to get both on and off the beaten track again and again. I used to do some endurance racing. I used to spot on a NASA Works team, and the tire that we used for that class was a Ventus. So if we can use one set of tires for a whole race, I think you guys will be pretty happy with it too. So get your tire journey started at hankooktires.com and see just how far these wheels can take you. That's HANKOOK, hankooktire.com. Thank you so much, Hankook.
Now back to the show. Powered by a 1.8-liter inline-4 making 100 horsepower and weighing only 2,400 pounds, the P1800 was exactly the sports coupe Volvo had envisioned years earlier. Unfortunately, the work done at Jensen's plant wasn't up to snuff. Shoddy manufacturing forced Volvo to end their contract with Jensen and move production up to the Gothenburg plant after only 6,000 models were made.
6,000 units. Why? Why doesn't Britain... Why are their standards a little lower when it comes to putting stuff together?
Too many pints at the pub, mate.
Like, I don't know about mate. That felt a bit Australian,
right?
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm losing it. Oi. No, that's Australian. Mm-hmm. What is it? Bromwich.
Brother.
Bruv. Aye, bruv.
Gov.
Hey, gov.
Hey, gov.
I can't tell if you're a bruv or a gov.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell me if you're a gov. You might.
If I asked,
if I was a gov, you'd know.
It's the lore.
Apologies to everyone else in the world.
Yeah. Sorry, I know we have a lot of listeners in the UK. We appreciate you guys. You just
when is this coming out?
That's very British too, right? They say
next month.
This one's coming out February 24th.
Okay. If you're British, I will be in England at the very beginning of April. So keep an eye out for me at London. Gov.
Is Sykes a British last name?
That's a British name, yeah.
After they switched to making the P1800 in Sweden, the car was renamed the 1800S. S standing for Sverige, which is what Swedes call Sweden. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Sorry about that. Output was boosted to 115 horsepower. By the third iteration, the 1800E, E short for Einspritzung, German for fuel injection, the car was making 130 brake horsepower. Okay. The final version, the 1800 ES, was the car enthusiast's holy grail. It was a shooting brake. This is the one that I want.
This is the one you want.
Yep. There's just like a nice British racing green one on the market. Just got to pull a trigger. Volvo had a car with universal appeal with the P1800. Over in America, a market that Swedes had been dying to break into, the P1800 won a design award at the 1961 California State Fair. Teams entered P1800s into the 12 and 24 hours of Daytona, where they finished middle of the pack. But the biggest publicity boost for the P1800 was yet to come.
And just two Volvo's, what would you call it? Idiom. It's like their general spirit of Volvo, like finish middle of a pack in a 24-hour race is kind of, it's very Volvo. You know what I mean? Made it.
Yeah, we did it.
24 hours.
I never won full throttle.
Did not lose though, and we're not dead. So pretty much this is a win for us.
It is kind of a weird dichotomy of like marketing themselves as a really safe car, but also doing racing.
Yeah.
The moment Volvo had been dreaming of came true when a P1800 was employed as a hero car in the British series The Saint, featuring Roger Moore, much to the chagrin of British audiences. Even when not on set, Roger Moore drove a P1800 as one of his dailies. Finally, Volvo had their big Hollywood adjacent moment. This did more for their image than anything possibly could have at the time. With the Amazon, Volvo had become a household name. Now with the 1800, Volvo was a sexy household name.
The Saint was huge too as a TV show in the States.
Really?
Well, yeah, it wasn't just a British thing, but it was a well-regarded series. And it gave there was also around that time you had the Saint, you had I forget, the Secret Agent. You had just a bunch of spy shows.
Oh, like Top Secret? Was that one?
I think Top Secret was the movie with Val.
movie.
Yeah, with Val. But anyways,
what's the shoe phone one?
Oh, that was Get Smart. Yeah,
Get Smart.
It was so popular. It spawned its own spoof genre.
Yeah. The only Saint I know is the Val Kilmer movie.
The 60s were a period of tremendous growth for the company. In addition to the design award of the P1800, 1962 marked the first time Volvo received an award for safety. By sticking to their core tenets, Volvo continued to solidify their image of being a safe and reliable company, which lives on to this day. That same year, the 100,000th Amazon rolled off the assembly line.
And you really want an Amazon.
An Amazon would probably be my choice for classic Volvo, yes.
You are like firmly entrenched in the early 50s with your taste, huh?
Barring some notable exceptions, yeah, I think so, maybe. I don't know. I'm
not saying that as a bad thing. No. I'm just saying that like that the Amazon clearly looks like an old-timey car.
It's a very strike zone, 50s.
Well, like I was saying, like last week I was talking about, it's like Volvo's 50s Datsun 510 almost,
yes.
Like similar size, similar kind of like, not similar look, but a little four-door.
Just like you paint it
compact
yellow
sedan.
And it looks like a taxi.
Yeah, and you lower that thing down, put it on some freaking, Graham lights. Is that the wheels? Like the Trans Am style racing wheels from the 70s. Like that thing looks sick as hell. Put like a little Volvo 5-cylinder turbocharged engine under the hood.
Yeah.
Brother.
It's funny because the Graham lights that I just found look exactly like the Advans.
Yeah.
That's not the wheel. What am I thinking of? Not Graham lights. Super light wheels. They're from Australia. Super light Trans Am wheels. The classic, you know what I'm talking about when you see it.
Oh, yeah. These are cool.
Yeah, the, what is this? 8-spoke Trans Am wheel.
Would you get gold?
Ooh, depending on the color of my Amazon.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, super light, not Graham lights.
You get your Amazon, I'll get my P1800.
And then we can both have broken down cars. Okay. By 1963, Volvo was the 4th largest importer of cars into the U.S. That's amazing. In an effort to expand their operations in North America, a factory was built in Nova Scotia on Canada's east coast. The next year, a massive new factory opened in Torslanda, outside of Gothenburg, that can handle production of about 200,000 vehicles a year. But the first hiccup came as Sweden chose not to join the European Economic Community. What would later morph into the EU, the EEC was an organization that was made to foster economic relations between European nations with a common market between them. Sweden, though, opted out, which resulted in higher tariffs.
Just going to stay neutral.
Yeah.
Stay neutral in this one.
Mm-hmm.
This put a damper on Volvo's international sales as tariffs made their vehicles unreasonably expensive. Not to be deterred, Volvo opened a plant in Ghent, Belgium. Belgium was one of the founding members of the EEC and had significantly reduced trading costs with neighboring countries. The next significant model to debut was the 140 series, the successor to the Amazon. These sedans and wagons gave birth to the design language that is so inherently tied to Volvo. The simplistic design was returned to Swedish practicalism, sparing the flashiness of the P1800 in lieu of more space and utility. New disc brakes and safety belts for every seat were standard. Selling for $2,995 or the equivalent of $29,000, the 144 was at the higher end of the affordable car bracket, but came with all the safety and reliability Volvo was known for. The year it debuted, the 144 won Car of the Year by Swedish magazine Teknikens Värld.
He said that like a witch.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you think they're all trolls in Sweden. They do have trolls in Sweden. Maybe that's who said that.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Värld.
Värld.
See, it sounds like if you were to
Teknikens
If you had never read that word before and you're like, what do you think Swedes call world? You'd probably be like, world?
Yeah. It's hard not to make generalizations with their language, which I am sorry to say. From 1960 to 1970, Volvo grew exponentially. During this expansion, Volvo acquired 33% of Dutch car manufacturer DAF, D-A-F, and also formed an alliance with Peugeot and Renault. The aim of the merger was to create V8s and share manufacturing capability across all three companies, but the best laid plans of mice and men go awry, especially when there's a worldwide crisis looming in the distance.
The
I'm going to check out, hold on, let's check out this Volvo 144. Okay, yeah, that's a Volvo. You look at that and say, I think that looks like a Volvo.
Yeah, it's not as rounded as the Amazon.
No, not at all.
And there's like kind of no flair to it.
It's the most car-looking car you could possibly car.
Yeah. The 1973 oil crisis comes up time and time again on Past Gas, and as we've mentioned before, no car company was safe during this time. The grand plan for Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo, or PRV as they will henceforth be called, to come together and make a big V8 was scrapped. Laws were made that any engine greater than 2.8 liters was taxed heavily, so instead, the companies designed a fuel-efficient V6 for use across all brands. During this time, Volvo was working on an update to their successful 140 series. The Amazon had been phased out in 1970 after over 666,000 were produced, and while the 140 had slightly more modern design, it too was feeling its age. The follow-up to the 140 was the 200 series. If the Volvo Amazon walked so the 140 could fly, the 200 series rocketed out of the stratosphere.
Whoa.
2.9 million models of the 200 were produced from 1974 all the way to 1993, with elements of the architecture lasting more than 27 years in Volvo cars.
Stratosphere is only 6 to 31 miles above us.
6 miles?
6 to 31 miles.
6 times 5,200.
No, it's like 31.
That's like 30,
getting to
31,000
space is
feet?
not that far. You know, it's not that high up.
What's after the stratosphere?
Oh, I don't know.
No one has figured that out.
The mesosphere, which is 40 miles up there. It's not that far. Dude, we could drive there. We could drive to space.
It'll take us like 2 hours.
Yeah. Even less without traffic.
I can't find traffic alerts for the stratosphere on Google Maps. The 200 series was extremely similar to the 140, but with many modern improvements. Crumple zones in the front and rear were novel at the time, but provided a large buffer in collisions and made them much less severe on passengers. A switch to front McPherson struts created more room in the engine bay. Steering was improved with a rack and pinion system, and an improved brake master cylinder provided extra stopping power. The first car to feature the PRV V6 was the 1974 Volvo 260, but perhaps the most famous to rock it was the DeLorean.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's right.
DMC-12 had a PRV V6.
That's right.
Also, did you know it was called the DMC-12 because they wanted to sell it for $12,000?
I believe I recall that.
But it ended up being like $24,000. And also underpowered, according to, like
to most
the people that were buying it, which were like Lamborghini douchebags. So the PRV made 140 horsepower, which was similar to giant American V8s at the time that were being choked by emissions regulations, proving that the move to produce a V6 instead of a V8 was worth it.
Fair enough.
The 200 series debuted at a perfect time when fuel-efficient imports were trouncing American cars in their own territory. The four-cylinder 240 provided the great gas mileage Japanese cars were offering, with the added safety that came standard with Volvo nameplate.
And there were just bigger cars too, and Americans dug that.
Yeah, they were bigger. Because all the Swedes, they're like 6'7".
Yeah.
And going back to like the etymology of the naming system,
Mm-hmm.
200 is the series, 4 is the number of cylinders.
Okay.
So like the 260 had the V6 in it.
Okay. Right.
And
the zero is how many doors it has. You couldn't get in it.
We'll be right back after these messages. This podcast is sponsored by Chime. Look, everything is so expensive right now. The last thing you need is more credit card debt. Enter the Chime Credit Builder Card. This is a secured credit card with no annual fees. You can build credit with money you set aside and avoid interest or expensive debt. Plus, you can get access to MyPay and get up to $500 of your pay before payday with no mandatory fees. Start building credit with your everyday purchases and regular on-time payments, all with no annual fees, interest, or credit check at chime.com/gas. I'm a huge credit card head. I always search out the credit card with the best benefits. And let me tell you, the Chime Credit Builder Card is the one. There's no annual fees, interest, or credit check to apply. You can use it everywhere Visa credit cards are accepted. Build credit using your own money. Plus, with Chime, you can get access to MyPay and get up to $500 of your pay before payday. So turn your everyday purchases into steps toward your financial goals with Chime's secured credit card. Get started today at chime.com/gas. That's chime.com/gas. Chime feels like progress. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal and OTC advance fees may apply. Late payment may negatively impact your credit score. Results may vary. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range $20 to $500. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. Thanks, Chime. This podcast is sponsored by Indeed. Let me tell you a little story about hiring. I hire a lot of writers at Donut, and one thing that really bogs me down is having a bunch of tabs open, no organization, just kind of at the whim of my browser. That's why Indeed is so great. Everything is right there in one place. You don't have to search around for anything. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed's Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. With Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs, there are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/passgas. Just go to Indeed.com/passgas right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/passgas. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Now back to the show.
On the subject of safety, Volvo's engineering team rolled out a concept car used to demonstrate new safety features. It was called the Volvo Experimental Safety Car, or VESC for short. While safety features aren't inherently exciting, this car was instrumental in the push for making roads safer around the world. It featured telescopic shock-absorbing bumpers, anti-lock brakes, automatic pop-up head restraints, a quote, disappearing steering wheel that jutted forward 150 millimeters in a collision, and some of the first versions of airbags ever seen in cars. And it had front and rear airbags. The VESC proved Volvo was dedicated to safety over everything else. The innovations of VESC found their way into production models of the 200 series, which helped the cars easily comply with new U.S. safety standards and strengthen the company's foothold in the States. With this bump, the U.S. became Volvo's biggest market, even surpassing Sweden. Volvo cars were considered so safe that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, bought a fleet of 240s, quote, which were used to set the safety standards against which all new cars in the U.S. were tested, unquote. If that wasn't enough, Volvo introduced the world's first three-way catalytic converter and the Lambda Sonde, an oxygen sensor developed with Bosch that could measure the exhaust and send a signal to the ECU to fine-tune the air-fuel ratio. Damn, this thing is sick.
Yeah. They just secretly do so many things that are standard in cars nowadays. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to bring up that we talk about NHTSA all the time.
Yeah.
But if we were to just say NHTSA, no one would ever know what we're talking about. So we have to say the full name.
I know, every time.
And then we have to say NHTSA every time we mention them.
We should do an episode on NHTSA and how it came to be and stuff. I think that'd be it'd be the sexiest episode we've ever made.
Oh, yeah. We'll get Joel McHale in here.
Ooh, Joel McHale?
Safety.
He's sexy, don't you think?
He's a good looking dude. Yeah, for sure.
That's the only person I could think of when pressed. Gun to my head, Joel McHale.
Gun to your head. Name a sexy dude.
2 out of 3
the tall guy from the soup. He's a good looking dude. Joel McHale, if you're listening, I don't want you to think I don't think you're good looking. I do think you're good looking.
You don't want Joel McHale coming after you.
No, dude, that dude's like 6'8". He'd take my head off. Tall guys can fight.
I've been watching this 30 for 30 on Celtics versus Lakers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very well done.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know Larry Bird is 6'9".
He's a big guy.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like a huge guy, but he's taller than Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's really interesting seeing them like,
Isn't Aaron Judge also like 6'9"?
he's 6'7".
6'7".
But someone overlaid him at bat versus Jose Altuve, who is 5'6", and their strike zones are like Altuve's is
it's like
the size of like a small notebook.
That's hilarious.
And Aaron Judge has this like doormat sized strike zone. It's crazy.
Baseball, dude, it's coming up. It's coming around.
Yeah.
Baseball, just in case you don't know what we're talking.
We're talking so much about how sexy Joel McHale is. We had to start talking about baseball.
And how sexy baseball players are. Yeah. It's a segment of Volvo. We already introduced the Volvo sexy cars.
Yeah, that's true. They're pretty hot.
You know, this whole episode's turning me on. Okay, let's get to Saab. Speaking of getting hot and bothered, let's get to Saab.
During this time, Volvo was absolutely just blowing up Saab, Scania. They're in text form, blowing up their. Shut up, Joe. Volvo was courting Saab in an attempt to form a partnership. The deal was widely publicized as they were the two biggest auto manufacturers in Sweden at the time, and the result would have been one of the top auto manufacturers in the whole of Europe. Volvo's powerful labor union approved the deal, and the company made an offer. But the board at Saab Scania, who were also in talks with Fiat at the time, spun their wheels, and both companies got cold feet. In the end, it would be Volvo to publicly disparage the deal, saying,
Volvo can no longer await the outcome of the internal talks at Saab Scania, but must follow up with its own development program. That was my best Swedish accent.
You sound like Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Despite the deal not happening, Volvo had reason to celebrate. 1977 marked the company's 50th anniversary. They employed over 60,000 in Sweden alone and had made $3.5 billion in profit the year before.
Good. In 77?
Yeah.
That's a lot of cocaine.
Volvo gave all employees... They didn't spend it all on cocaine. Just half of it. Volvo gave all employees a commemorative watch and produced a special edition 244 with metallic silver paint and black and gold moldings. It had plush blue velour seats and blue door cards, a special steering wheel with a brass emblem, and some other decals and badges. I think it had a couple like gold badges on the grill, which I think is a very European thing. Like you see the Mercedes diesels that have like the 500,000 mile badge. Look like that.
Fun. By the late 70s, Volvo was unstoppable. The company had navigated 2 oil crises handily, while other car companies were playing catch-up. Volvo had thrived during the tumultuous period, and they were about to have their most impressive year to date. Word continued to spread of Volvo's reliability and safety, and sales took off. 1979 saw car production rise 25% to 310,000 cars produced. The 4 millionth Volvo car rolled off the line that year. They introduced what would go on to be very successful small diesel engines. The company became more entangled with Renault when they bought an additional 9.9% of Volvo's stock. Both companies consolidated R&D departments to bolster innovation. This gave Volvo plenty of momentum to head into a new decade, a decade signified by massive technological leaps. Volvo had been using small turbos in their diesel truck engines since the 1950s, but never coupled to a gas engine. That was until the 1980 240 Turbo came out. Turbos were nothing new at the time. You can find them in small sports coupes and diesel trucks. But Volvo put one in a comfortable sedan, which left many scratching their heads. But despite the plush interior, the little 240 ripped absolute ass.
Sorry, I keep saying that.
The B21 FT engine was based on the bulletproof 2.1-liter B21 and featured Bosch K-Jetronic mechanical fuel injection and Volvo's Lambda Son sensor for maximum efficiency. The small turbo was engaged as low as 1400 RPM, which basically meant no turbo lag after idle. Out of the box, the little 2,800-pound sedan put out 127 horsepower, which was the same as the V6 that came in the 260, but consumed far less gas than that V6. These numbers are similar to a Miata, which is praised by car enthusiasts the world over, but Volvo offered something a Miata could never, a turbocharged 5-speed wagon. The 240 was the world's first turbocharged station wagon, and for a short time, it was also the fastest station wagon being produced, albeit with a 0 to 60 of 9 seconds. The 240 two-door sedan quickly became the car of choice for motorsport enthusiasts, and Volvo fostered this enthusiasm. The company organized the Turbo Cup, a spec race for 240s in which a turbo kit from our design could be retrofitted on a pre-1980 240 model. Ever since Asar Gabrielson and Gustaf Larsson reluctantly entered racing contests in the 1930s, Volvos had done well enough to justify the company's continued presence in a few different series.
And I just want to note right here, just because this episode is long as it is, the third episode is all about Volvo racing, so we're going to come back to it eventually.
Okay.
But there are some really cool cars produced during this time, and my favorite, the 850 wagon that did like touring car championships, is also in that episode. So stay tuned. Back on the consumer side, Volvo had just rolled out a new executive car, the 700 series, starting with the elegant 760 in 1982. Now, I had to look this one up because I didn't know what it looked like. Guess what? Looks like a Volvo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're like, since we talked about that 144, it's like everything after that. What does it look like? Looks like a Volvo.
Yeah.
But also they yes, are the utilitarian. The 700 is when you started getting more like the executive. People have a little bit of money.
Accents.
They can, the accents, a little bit nicer interior. Yeah. And then that, I think Volvo now, sure, they're safe, but this is where they started becoming like a luxury brand.
Yeah. This was like their first real luxury car. Yeah. And then you'll see in the 90s, we'll get to it, but like, They do some consumer car, like economy cars, and then they get back to luxury eventually. The 700 series was meant as a replacement for the 200 series, but in the end, it would be the formidable 200 series that would outlive these cars. Over 1.4 million 700 series were sold in 10 years, thanks in part to some economic luck. During the 80s, the Swedish Kroner devalued a bit compared to other European currencies. On the surface, this looked bad, but what it ended up doing was making Volvo cars more affordable in other countries. What Volvo may have lost due to exchange rate was more than made up for in the increased sales across Europe.
And this is what happened with Lexus too, when Japan was in a recession. So
yes.
It was, it is cheaper for relative to the outside money for them to produce a car.
Yeah.
So the value in the car, the value of the car is more than the value of the Kroner. So when it is exported, they make more money.
Yeah. Simple economics.
It's simple economics.
By 1986, Volvo had enough capital to acquire the controlling stake of GM Heavy Truck Corporation. While we're almost exclusively staying on the subject of Volvo's consumer cars, Volvo's trucking side accounts for almost 3 times as much revenue. GM's already sprawling network of dealers across the US and Canada was an opportunity Volvo couldn't pass up.
Growing up in the 80s, I can remember Volvo, this was a pretty ubiquitous car, the 200 series. You'd see it, one, because they lasted so long. People held on to them. But they were just everywhere. Mm-hmm. And if you go to and I don't know why, but when I lived in Louisville, there's 5 Volvo dealerships. Really? And then they turned into used Volvo dealerships.
Oh,
so
wow.
there's this huge, it's like the pace car of Louisville, Kentucky. There's just Volvos everywhere.
Wow.
That's funny.
As the 80s hit the apex into the 90s, the Swedish Kroner bounced back, and Volvo's cars became expensive again in foreign markets. They became further entwined with Renault to cover R&D costs, with plans to fully merge in a few years. Volvo sold 33% of their Dutch business to Mitsubishi so the Japanese company could produce cars in Europe.
And from what I remember, other European companies did not like this deal because they saw Mitsubishi as like a huge threat.
Yeah. All the reshuffling was worth it, however, as Volvo rolled 2 new series off their production line that would go on to be some of the most popular models. The 800 and 900 series were the safest, most reliable, and hardy cars the company had made up to this point. The development added up to 7 years and $2 billion, the largest industrial project Volvo had undertaken in the history of the company. Out of this project came one of the largest leaps forward in technological advancement for Volvo, the B-Series modular engine. Initially a 6-cylinder offered in the new 960, it was later modified to be a 4- and 5-cylinder engine, with the latter finding fame in its turbocharged form. The first car to feature the 5-cylinder engine was the 850 GLT. Marketed as a, quote, dynamic car with 4 unique innovations. Really setting the world on fire there. The 850 featured many firsts, like a self-adjusting seatbelt, side impact protection systems, or SIPs, a Delta Link rear axle, which married the good parts of a live axle with independent suspension, and the aforementioned 5-cylinder, which was transversely mounted. The new models were praised for their innovations, and NHTSA once again used the high benchmark for safety, citing them as the safest cars on the market. Volvo swept every safety award during the early 90s and used all these awards in their marketing in the US, noting that American families were focused on safety more than anything. As the suburbs became peppered with Volvos, they gained the reputation as being a yuppie car. This would have been a nightmare for other companies that were trying to capture Gen X's spirit of adventure during this time, but for a company like Volvo, who put an emphasis on safety and reliability, it worked in their favor. The reviews helped as well, as a majority of drivers loved the look and feel of the 800 and 900 series. What didn't work in their favor, however, was the scandal that was about to unfold. Volvo was set to merge with Renault in 1993. The year before, they recorded a $469 million loss, which expedited the talks surrounding the deal with Renault. Volvo needed a safety net, and having worked so closely with the French...
Safety. It's Volvo.
And having worked so closely with the French brand for so many years, it was natural. Although sales rebounded to put Volvo up $1.6 billion in 1993.
Oh, thank God, more economics.
The merger was still set to go through. That is, however, until Volvo shareholders found that Volvo CEO, Per Gyllenhammar, had snuck a provision into the contract to increase the French government's ownership past 65%. The deal was nixed. Gyllenhammar resigned out of shame, and the partnership was dissolved with Renault in 1994. Soren Gill took on the role of CEO in Gyllenhammar's absence. It wasn't going to be an easy task, as the company had $2 billion in debt and a general distrust surrounding the brand. But Gill came into the plan to focus on bringing production of all parts of a Volvo back in-house and bump up the quality. He sold off all the subsidiaries and reduced the debt to just $100 million within 1 year. This allowed Volvo to buy a construction business. While all this turmoil was happening, Volvo debuted one of the most iconic models that has since become a classic, the 850 Estate. This station wagon would go on to be super successful in the British Touring Car Championship, the Australian Touring Car Championship, and Group A racing. A version of the 850 debuted at the '94 Geneva Auto Show that was Volvo's most powerful model yet. The 850 T5R had a 5-cylinder turbocharged engine making 250 horsepower, and we're going to talk about more in next week's episode, but for now, let's go back to the consumer side. Part of Gill's strategy was going back to producing luxury cars. Although most of their models were at the high end of affordability, Volvo hadn't produced a luxury car since the 700 series, which ended production in 1992. The fruits of his labor were the C70 and the S80. The C70, a small sporty coupe, debuted in 1996. You would never know from the sides that it packed anywhere between 227 and 250 horsepower under the hood, delivered from that 5-cylinder turbocharged engine. The S80 replaced the 900 series as the company's flagship mid-size luxury sedan. It was awarded the top result in both American and European car crash tests, making it the safest car in the world at the time. In the same year, the 10 millionth Volvo rolled off the factory floor in Malaysia. It was a dark green 960 Royal. Royal.
And this is when they changed their naming convention. So they went from having 3 numbers to a letter and 2 numbers.
Okay.
And just for reference, C means coupe, V means versatility, and S means sedan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it's cool they had a 5-cylinder. Like it's not really talked about a lot.
Yeah. That and
But
the
they had it
Audi
forever.
one
Yeah.
are like the only 5 cylinders that.
Well, everybody always mentions Audi when
Yeah.
you talk 5-cylinder engines. It's like, well,
This is a good engine, though.
Yep.
The 90s ended on a bittersweet note. Volvo had navigated a tricky situation with Renault flawlessly, consolidated their debt, and released multiple very popular models, but at the end of the day, everything comes down to business. Volvo's trucking arm had always made significantly more money than their cars. Then CEO Leif Johansson engineered a deal with Ford to sell off everything but Volvo's heavy trucking business. Ford at the time was collecting brands for their Premier Auto Group, or PAG, which included Jaguar, Aston Martin, and Land Rover, to strengthen its presence in the European luxury car market. After shareholders approved it, Ford paid $6.45 billion for the brand and all of its assets, including the foreign factories. As part of the deal, Ford helped Volvo acquire their biggest competition in the heavy trucking business, Scania, for $7 billion. So if you listen to part 1 of this, Scania was literally the reason that Volvo exists in the first place. They were like the only other Swedish company at the time in the 1914s, whatever, around then. So this is like an 80-year feud they had with this company, basically. But the mega company proved too big for its britches, and the Swedish government dissolved it soon after, as they would have had a monopoly on the heavy trucking market.
I love that saying, too big for its britches.
Yeah.
I love it.
Dude, yeah,
I'm like approaching at limit of my britches, I think. You know?
Really? Like you're gonna have to buy new britches soon?
I think so.
we're speaking literally here. Too big for your.
Yeah.
I think you should get into athleisure wear. Then you don't have to.
Yeah, stretchy britches.
The deal with Ford was mutually beneficial, as Volvo maintained a high level of autonomy from its parent company, and Ford was able to incorporate the many Volvo safety innovations for their own cars. Volvos that debuted during the 40 years took on more of a rounded shape with curved lines rather than the signature box they were known for. But the brand also stayed true to their original styling, incorporating elements only a diehard fan would recognize. A good example of this is the C30, a small 3-door hatchback with an odd-shaped panoramic rear window that harkened back to the P1800 shooting brake. I was also looking at these before I got my Audi. I really like the C30.
Yeah, I could see you rocking one of these.
Yeah, Volvo was one of the few brands that still made Volvos when Ford owned them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the other companies are kind of like, I don't know if that's a It's not really a Jaguar, you know?
Yeah,
but
you were saying that on the big 3 that Ford turned everything into a Taurus.
Yeah.
Also, the C30 had the turbo 5-cylinder and a 5-speed manual, which is sick.
Yeah.
During this time, one of the most unlikely of collaborations happened when Volvo teamed up with Yamaha to develop a V8. The 4.4-liter B8 444S was jointly developed by both companies and produced at Yamaha in Japan. It was featured in the first-gen XC90 and the S80, as well as the Noble M600. Output of this V8 ranged from 311 horsepower to 650 horsepower.
Wow. I love the Nobles, dude. They're so sick.
Yeah, that's one car I've never seen in the U.S.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. But ever since we all seen it on Top Gear, I think I've liked it. During the 2008 recession, one of the only American car companies that didn't accept federal relief money was, in fact, Ford. While this boosted Ford's appearance to the American public, it also forced them to make some hard decisions. They needed some capital ASAP, so they put Volvo up for sale. Eventually, Chinese car company Ghia bought Volvo for a loss to the tune of $1.8 billion. Ghia shifted the focus of the company to super efficient 3- and 4-cylinder engines with hybrid drivetrains. Sedans and wagons, which had gone out of style in the 90s, made way for crossovers and SUVs. While Volvos never really went out of vogue, the changes that Ghia made translated to more cars sold across the world. In 2015, Volvo sales rose 10% in Europe, 11% in China, and 24% in the US. And for the first time in its 89-year history, Volvo sold 500,000 cars in 1 year. Today, Volvo continues to innovate on all fronts, including safety, reliability, durability, and utility, all tenets in which the company was founded on exactly 100 years ago. But what about all that racing stuff? Next week in our final episode of the Volvo Trilogy, from the original R-Sport performance parts to the 850 touring cars to Team Cyan to Polestar, Volvo did racing just about as good as they did safety, and it influenced their consumer cars more than you would ever expect. And that is next week.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for next week.
Yeah, Volvos today are definitely like the quiet luxury car of choice for rich people across this nation, I think. If you see a nice ass house on the west side and then some Volvos in the driveway, you're like, okay, they're doing well.
Yeah. They got some liquid assets.
That's right. Dude, last year Volvo lent us it's a V60 Polestar edition.
Yeah, the wagon.
Dude, yeah, wagon. It was super sick. Had a hybrid plus I think a 4-cylinder. I want to say it's turbocharged.
I think it's like 414 horsepower.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, but dude, that was honestly one of my favorite cars that I've driven here. Because when you're creeping through traffic, that hybrid system is just like, car's super quiet.
Yeah,
it's like on EV mode almost, and the sound system. I forget what company made it, but it was the best sound system I've ever heard.
Oh, really?
Just amazing cars. And I was really into the idea of buying a V60 for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, but wait, I need something to tow my EF Civic with. So I kind of went the complete opposite direction. But I love new Volvos. They're very nice.
We were about to buy the XC60, but I don't think they don't make a hybrid version of it.
Really? That's surprising.
I think so. Oh, they do.
If they do, it's probably like $80,000 or something. So
the interior is amazing. It just feels like heavy and planted. Yeah. And I've ridden in 240s. I rode in like a 900 wagon. My friend owned one in high school. The feeling has never changed. It feels safe, planted. Just like if you got hit, you're not going to be hurt.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into more Volvo next week and their racing exploits. But for now, Joe, we've got some listener mail, don't we?
Oh, let's see. Let's check Santa's coal bag. This is from Tingy Koala. Hello, real quick. My name is Wyatt, not Tingy Koala. That's my son's name. My son's name is Wyatt. I know, shocking. I've been watching Donut since Science Garage. Hey, Bart is goated. Bart,
you're straight up goated, dude.
And it's nice hearing him on the podcast. I love listening to y'all while working on my own car. It's been great learning more about car history. One of my favorites was the one about the Fox body that took down Porsche. Also, I would love to know what your guilty pleasure cars are. Mine, for example, is the 2002 Buick Century. Signed Wyatt. I gotta look up
guilty
this.
pleasure.
I looked it up. It's you should definitely feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Oh, Wyatt. What are we doing? No, I can see that. It's probably got that 3800 GM motor in there. Probably just like cruises. Guilty pleasure car. This is a great subject.
Yeah.
I'll choose a more contemporary car that I see get a lot of heat, but I'm not afraid to admit that I like the GMC Hummer EV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really fun to drive.
It is garish as hell.
Yeah.
It is just a monstrosity on the streets, but there's just something about it, especially the SUV version in particular, like that SUV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what mine is. I think
we know mine's the Dodge Magnum.
Yeah.
we've been over this.
Yeah.
I also think there's something I think is pretty cool about a Lincoln Mark 7.
Oh, those are actually coming back.
It's just funky proportions, the little bubble in the trunk, like just something about it.
I think Abimelech is single-handedly bringing those back.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
He is also like a Marauder fan, I think.
Yeah.
The Marauders.
One of
I
the
do.
weird
I
Panther
gotta say,
guys.
like,
Panther platforms.
I know
something.
it's absolutely hated because it was coming off of being one of the best cars at the time, but like the 2001 Eclipse
Yeah.
has a soft spot in my heart, even though it doesn't have the 4G63 in it.
2001?
Yeah. Right?
Oh, the pointy one.
No, it's not the pointy one. It's got the lines on the side.
The one from Too Fast?
No. The one after that.
Yeah.
Oh, that Tyrese drives.
Yeah, that. Are you thinking about that one?
Yeah. Would you
Yeah.
call that pointy?
I would, and by comparison to the 2G, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's my guilty pleasure because my dad had one.
Did he really?
Yeah, he had one. This is like the car that I got my license in.
No shit.
And it was his first Japanese car, and he loved
Wow.
it, and he kept it so nice.
It's probably,
and then it got stolen
Oh, that's
and
too
wrapped
bad.
around a tree.
Dang. Yeah, I've been pretty harsh on this. I've been really harsh on the Too Fast, Too Furious Tyrese car.
Yeah.
I stand by that. But,
The convertible sucks. I will say that. The hardtop is better.
But yeah, the hardtop's cool. But man, if this car, if it did have the 2G or 4G 6.3, I think it'd be much more revered, I think.
Yeah.
But you know what, Joe? I think you might be on the bleeding edge of people coming around on the 3G Eclipse.
I think it's going to make a comeback because you can buy them for $1,500.
Yeah, and dude, you could build something like this yellow one.
Oh, that looks sick.
It does look sick.
That looks like a Porsche.
Good.
Or a Ferrari. Like there's. It just kind of looks like an amalgam of.
I know, right?
There's something there.
It's cool. You know what, Joe? Brave of you, and I commend you. And this one, this one's cool.
It's no Buick Century, Joe.
This one's got some Conseil wheels on it. It doesn't. They did the spoiler delete. That's
Spoiler
cool.
delete is actually
That looks
a really good idea.
Nice. I'm into that. Okay, great question, Wyatt. Really got my brain turning here, bud. If you'd like to hit us up, you can at passgas@donutmedia.com. We might read your email on air. You can follow the boys at Bids Bardo, at Joe G. Weber, and at Nolan J. Sykes. And big thank you to the crew, Edgar Grajeda behind the camera, and Audrey Holden over there on the mixing board. And thank you to Joe for writing this episode.
You're welcome. Go follow us. Go follow the podcast on Instagram and check our new Road and Snack segments because we're not doing them in the episodes anymore. They're living on Instagram.
That's right.
Where they belong.
All right. We will see you next week.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.